Let me tell you something about mornings. They're supposed to be peaceful, right? Birds, sunlight on the lake, coffee brewing in a quiet cabin. That's what I signed up for out here on Silver Maple Lake. But the day I found a letter demanding $500,000 in back HOA fees, yeah, that was the morning the birds went quiet. I was just standing barefoot on my deck, the sun turning the water gold, thinking life doesn't get much better, until I saw this envelope, so blindingly white it looked radioactive, stamped in angry red with urgent. $500,000 due immediately. Silver Birch Shores HOA, it said. Funny thing is, this cabin hasn't belonged to any HOA since 1974. Not legally, not ever. Inside was a letter, neatly typed, full of big words like foreclosure, seizure, privileges revoked. They claimed I owed 25 years of lake maintenance, dock fees, shoreline assessments, the works. Failure to pay could result in loss of property and waterfront access. I stared at that letter, the way you stare at a rattlesnake in your boot. And one thought just echoed through my head. This isn't about money. Somebody wants to steal my land, and they want to do it on paper. Now, let me pause for a second because I know some of you are already laughing or shaking your heads. And trust me, so was I at first. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is, and if you get a kick out of real-life HOA drama, don't forget to stick around. I got a feeling you'll love this ride. I didn't react right away. When you're 62 and retired, you learn to let things breathe. There's power in stillness, especially when life throws you something so absurd it feels like a prank. For a second, I wondered if some kid from across the inlet was pulling my leg, but kids don't type in legalese or spend money on heavy linen paper with shiny stamps. So, I read the letter again, this time slower, letting each ridiculous phrase land like a punchline nobody asked for. See, I'm not just some guy who got lost in the woods. I spent 35 years in water rights investigations. I know every trick, every forged map, every scam from 3 counties away. And this wasn't just a scam, this was confidence. Whoever wrote this believed they could bulldoze me out of my land for $500,000. Before I started swinging, though, I had to go back to where it all began, the day I bought this place. It was 2 years ago, late summer, lake like polished steel. Everything smelled like pine sap and sunbaked grass. I was tired of city noise, tired of the HOA patrolling lawns and measuring mailbox heights. I wanted real quiet, the kind that feels like you're getting a second shot at peace. The seller, an old-timer named Walter, met me at the bottom of the drive, shook my hand, and pointed to the water. Son, this place has fed my family more peace than food. No HOA ever touched it. Never will. Of course, I didn't just take his word for it. I dug through every plat map, county filing, old shoreline survey, you name it. The state did a survey in '74 after a flood. Proved right there this chunk of lake, this half-acre and dock had never been under any HOA. Clean title, no liens, no mortgage, just a key to a door older than most HOAs. So when this letter showed up, I knew it was no mistake. It was a move, a calculated one. 3 days later, mail truck kicks up dust, and the mailman hands me another fat envelope, no return address. He gives me that look, they sure like sending you stuff, huh? I tear it open. Another fake, this time a color map, new and shiny, with a big red line swallowing my property. Updated HOA boundary, adopted 2018. I nearly choked. My dock is marked HOA managed shoreline access. If you've ever felt your blood pressure spike so hard you could hear in your ears, you know what I mean. Now, I don't spook easy, but I wasn't about to let this go. I marched straight into the county office with a forged map. Young clerk behind the counter, glasses slipping down his nose, looks up at me. HOA boundaries, he says, like he's never heard the words together in a sentence. Exactly why I'm here, I said, laying out every real document I had. Plat maps, aerial photos, even Walter's note. The kid scans the fake map, and up comes the printer metadata. Silver Birch Shores HOA office, June 12, 2018. I almost laughed. That's a forgery, I told him. He just nodded, a little pale, and said, Sir, I've seen this before. Other owners got the same treatment. They just moved. Bullies count on silence, folks. But not from me. Then a legend walks in. Howard Lane, retired county surveyor, boots older than the clerk, hands like iron. He looks at the map, snorts, and says, "No legs, no spine, no brain." It's a fantasy. He writes me a notarized statement on the spot, confirming the thing violates every mapping rule in the county. Time someone punched back, he says, "Good thing you showed up." Armed with Howard's letter, I call the sheriff. When the deputy finally arrives, sunglasses and all, he glances at the barricade, now blocking my access to the lake. A brand new, 6-foot steel monstrosity with a padlock the size of a grapefruit, chained to posts they drilled into my land. He studies it, shrugs, and says, "Looks like an HOA matter. Take it to court." I wanted to scream. Instead, I documented everything: photos, boot prints, drill marks, time-stamped and backed up 3 ways. But the final straw? The next morning, my cameras catch a silver SUV sneaking down my drive. A woman in a windbreaker, Patty Monroe, HOA president, marches up to where the barricade used to stand, flips off my camera, and tapes another envelope to my gate. She had the nerve to impersonate a judge, someone dead for 3 years. That's when things got real. I called a tow truck, local guy, love a little mischief. Want it gone quiet or with fireworks? He grinned. Surgical, I said. 10 minutes later, that barricade was history. Pulled, padlock snapped, dumped like yesterday's trash. I left the sign on my porch like a trophy. Meanwhile, I upgraded my defenses, cameras, motion sensors, floodlights. I wanted them to know I wasn't backing down. Then I called Naomi Chun, a lawyer who eats crooked HOAs for breakfast. My old colleague put me in touch, said she doesn't blink. She moved fast, filed for an injunction, took my evidence to the prosecutor, and scheduled a showdown at Unity Day, the HOA's big parking lot event. I showed up with my binder. Patty tried her best to act like queen of the castle, but Naomi let the evidence do the talking. Metadata, forged seals, fake court notices, security footage of Patty trespassing at dawn. The crowd turned. People yelled, "Show us the financials, Patty." The board treasurer looked ready to run for the hills. The crowd got loud, then louder, demands for audits, resignations, answers. Naomi announced the prosecutor was opening a criminal case. Patty's face went pale, and the board started to crumble. By nightfall, the HOA message boards were a wildfire. Half the residents wanted the board gone, a quarter demanded every cent accounted for, and a handful were ready to show up at Patty's place with pitchforks. That night, my phone buzzes, motion detected, 2 figures sneaking toward my cabin. Patty and her cousin, duffel bag full of bolt cutters, spray paint, blank legal forms. The works. I called Naomi, then the sheriff. Floodlights lit up the property. Sirens cut through the night. Patty bolted for the woods. Her cousin got tackled trying to run. Deputies took my statement right there on the porch, cameras recording every angle, while Patty sat zip-tied in the dirt, makeup smeared and all. 4 days later, special HOA board meeting. Parking lot overflowing, residents buzzing about missing funds, seized accounts, criminal charges. Naomi stood up and made it official. The Silver Birch Shores HOA was dissolved. Unanimous vote. Patty's empire dead in a single afternoon. "We did it," Naomi said. "No," I told her quietly, "they did. The people took back what was theirs." 6 months later, court hearing. Patty in orange, shackled, thinner, and a lot less smug. Judge read out the charges: criminal forgery, fraudulent claims, trespass, conspiracy. 10 years, pleaded guilty to dodge federal charges. When she looked at me, it was pure disbelief, like she still couldn't figure out how she lost. Bullies rarely do. Now, every so often, when the light hits the water just right, I see the ghost of that old barricade in the lake's reflection. And I remember the night justice finally showed up on my shoreline. So, if you're out there thinking your voice doesn't matter, think again. Don't let anyone redraw your life on paper just because they sound confident. Stand your ground. Speak up. Sometimes all it takes to topple a paper empire is a little sunlight, a stack of evidence, and one stubborn old man who refuses to back down. Let me know in the comments. Ever had a fight for what was yours? Was it worth it? And what would you have done if the law wouldn't listen? Share your stories below, because justice out here is only as strong as the folks willing to demand it.